I ran across this word doing a coach's fellowship down in Southeast, and our little devotional we used. He used this word a lot, so it just kind of struck a chord with me. It's the word average. Average. Now, some interesting things about average. The first known use of the word average was in 1746. It was a shipping word. And it originally meant damaged merchandise. And it meant that because when the merchandise was damaged, then the ship owner and whoever he was shipping it to, they had to determine what the mid-value was, because they were going to have to split the cost. And so the word became, evolved a little bit, and one of the definitions is the value midway between two extremes. Average. Being midway between two extremes, in the middle. We say somebody has average height, average weight. And so one of the things that's important about this word is that it has there's a beginning and an end. 0 to 100, the average is somewhere in the middle. It's a linear word. Now, the world operates like there's no beginning and there's no end. So there's really no way to determine where something is on the scale. Another definition is to achieve or amount to over a period of time. So over a period of time, there becomes an amount. If you're going to have a baseball batting average, you're not going to get that from one swing. It's going to be over a period of time that you're going to look at what you've achieved or what you've amounted. Here's my favorite definition, and I think this really applies to what we're going to look at. An average performance, especially of an athlete or a team, that's computed over a number of opportunities to determine a successful performance. So if you're going to have a batting average of 400, then you compute that over a period of time, and you kind of, that's the way you assess it. The Super Bowl's coming up, and when you talk about Todd Gurley, then they talk about his yards gain per average. In other words, they compute that. If you talk about a basketball, you say, okay, this guy's got a 40% average when he shoots three-pointers. So it's a performance that's computed over a number of opportunities, and that determines the average. We can say that they said at one point that the Crimson Tide had won most of their games by an average of 20 points. So you kind of know what that means. If you have a race car, Daytona 500, they say the winner averaged 190 miles an hour. So it is something that's computed based on a number of opportunities. It also means this: taking the typical example of the group under consideration. Look at the stock market and you say the stock's increased by 5%. So you're taking a particular group and you're determining something about that group. Now, the word average is not necessarily that clear by its definition. So let's see if we can clear it up a little bit. Here's the questions to ask. What and who determines average? What and who determines average? Usually what determines average is performance or amount. It's also, there's somebody that's determining the average. There's somebody that's making an evaluation of average. In other words, my daughter went to Georgia, and in order to get in Georgia, somebody's evaluating your grade average. And you got to have a certain grade point to get in. Well, that's based on her performance, but it's also based on who's judging it. She couldn't judge it herself. Her dad couldn't judge it. It's judged by someone down there at the University of Georgia. Now, why is average important? Well, in that case, you couldn't get in without one, and you couldn't get in without a good one. Usually, it's important because when you evaluate, it's an evaluation tool, it determines value. You got the stock market again. You've got to, okay, what's the average rate of increase? And it determines the value. All right, here's a question for you. How do you increase or decrease your average? Usually, it's by effort. Why would you increase or decrease your effort? Usually a higher level equates to success, effectiveness, and really acceptance or approval. So the word average. Now let's get to Jesus. And here's what's important. Jesus is the average. Jesus' performance had the highest average. He had a perfect average. And his average was computed based on the number of opportunities and based on the numbers of his performance. Now, the reason Jesus' average was perfect, because he was perfect. He was the fullness of the Godhead. So think about Jesus. What do you think his average was when it came to humility? 100%. What was his average when it came to obedience? He said, I didn't come to destroy the law, but I came to fulfill it. 100%. What about his average in obeying the government? When he owed taxes? 100%. What about Jesus' average when it comes to showing mercy to somebody? 100%. What about Jesus when it comes to showing grace to sinners? 100%. What about his faithfulness? Did he ever disobey his Father? Did he ever not hear his Father? 100%. What about temptation? How did he do when he was tempted in all points like we are? 100%. Never sinned. What about resistance to evil when he was out there in the wilderness? 100%. How would you evaluate his prayer life? What was that? What was his batting average when it came to prayer? 100%. His average was perfect. It's undeniable, it's unrivaled, it's unattainable. Now you have to have a perfect average if you're going to play, one way to say it, God's game. You see, if you evaluate your own average, and you say, I'm above average, or I'm hitting 500 or 600, you're not going to get in. Ain't but one average. When you stand before God, Has to be a perfect average. You got to be batting 1,000. Only Jesus has that. So if you want to be accepted and approved, you got to have a perfect average. The only way you can have that is Jesus has to be your substitute, and he's got to give you his average, because none of ours is good enough. He's got to give us his Spirit, which empowers us that we might live as he lived. Now, here's the reason I got here. When this little devotional, they were talking about that you need to live your life to be above average. And it's all about, if you think that way, if the word average has to do just with your performance, when you see your performance as above average, you're going to be proud. When you see it as below average, you're going to be down and out. Here's the key to the Christian faith. We don't play the game of life to get an average. We play the game of life because we've already got an average. We play from average, from Jesus' average. We're not playing to somehow get a better average. We're playing because we've already got a perfect average. Imagine you had a perfect batting average. And imagine you knew every time you got up to bat, you already got a perfect average. Think you'd be a little more confident when you got up to bat the next time if you knew you had a perfect average that you could never lose, like his song. You'd live life different. You wouldn't live life in fear and shame. You see, that's what the Bible means when it talks about righteousness, that we get in on his righteousness, not ours. Everything Jesus did, his batting average was 1,000. He never missed it. He never wavered. We have to live by faith. We live from perfection, not for perfection. The difference between religion and Christianity is that very thing. All the other religions in the world, they're living to get a good batting average. And you ask most people, do you believe you're going to heaven? Well, I hope so. On the scale of 1 to 10, where do you see yourself? You know what the average answer is? 6. 6. Hey, I'm batting 600. I ain't killed nobody lately. I haven't left my wife. I got a pretty good average, That average won't get you in. It's got to be his average. But man, what a way to live. With a perfect average. So we can go out in the world and what? We can go out and seek to be obedient, and seek to show mercy, and seek to love people, and seek to treat the poor right. Not because we're accumulating a better average. It's because in God's sight, we're perfect. Colossians says we're complete in Him. You see, that's what you got to believe. You see, we don't work for an average. We believe average. I'm not trying to be above average. I'm trying to believe Jesus. And the more we believe in Him, it's not like we're accumulating. But what happens is we do begin to live above what the world calls average. And we do it because of Him. Now, we all know what decreases and what robs people of a perfect average as sin. Every time you sin, your average goes down. Every time you listen to Satan, and Satan says, look, you ain't perfect. When you stand before God, you're not going to have enough to get in. The more we believe that we got to work our way there, your average goes down. And the Bible actually says that if we're lost without Christ, we don't even have an average. We ain't even got on the scale yet. Ours is 0 or below. A friend of mine said one time, he said, Chuck, the definition of a sinner is a 0 with a line drawn through it. Yourself, ego, the world. If you try to compute where you are, if you believe what the world says, believe what Jesus says. He said, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden. I'll give you rest. I've already been down there. I was already born. I was raised as a child. I walked the streets. And I got it all right every time. I wasn't serving myself. I came to serve, and I went all the way to the cross and endured hell on that cross. So you wouldn't have to. Come to me. Trust me. Isn't that what we mean, Gene, when we say, I can do all things through who? Through Christ. Why?
He strengthens me.
He strengthens us. And He strengthens us because we live out of His perfection. We don't live trying to get our own. Now what should we do? If we're not working for perfection, we should work out of our perfect average. And if we do that, we're going to help somebody else. What does it mean to be lost? That means you're just struggling. You're not trusting. You're trying and you're trying. And when you screw up, you got to try harder. And when it doesn't work, you feel shame and guilt, and you feel like a failure. And then when it does work, you trust in yourself. What if we could go into the world with a message? The message of Jesus. Somebody might just find rest for their souls. What if we went into the world and believed in Jesus? Believed that we live out of His perfect life, not ours. Think there'd be more peace in the world? Think there'd be more joy? Think there'd be more unity? You see, the reason we're not unified is because this group, batting average, is higher than this group. That means our way is better than their way. Somebody said the playing field is level at the foot of the cross. What about hope? If you've already struck out in life, you ain't going to ever have a batting average of 1,000. And you're going to lose all hope. 46,000 suicides in America last year. Great percentage of them 19 years old and down. We got no hope. We got no despair. We got despair. We got just misery. What about condemnation? The only way you can live. We talk about a good self-image. We talk about being well adjusted. I tell you, you go to Jesus, and He lives in your heart. And you get your worth and dignity, not from yourself, but from Him. That's about the highest self-image you can get. Christ in you, the hope of glory. No condemnation. No judgment. No sitting on the bench. No criticism. There is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Now I realize my presentation, Ray, of this word is probably average. Probably in the middle somewhere. Probably may have not gotten on the high scale, but at least think of Jesus. He had a perfect average for us. He died on that cross for us. He gave us His grade point average so that when we stand before the everlasting judge, He's going to say, come on in. Come on in. And then we're going to stand there and weep and be amazed over the grace that we know we didn't have enough to get in. But yet in Jesus, we got it. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for your truth. Lord, we can say it all kinds of ways. It's not our goodness, but His. It's not our righteousness, but His. It's not our resume that we hand to you. It's His resume that He covers us with. Lord, help us just in this word. Help us not to live for an average, but to live from an average that you've given us. That you died on the cross that we might have. Lord, thank you that we're like the thief on the cross. Out of the game. Lowest average you could get. And yet Jesus said to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. Jesus never missed an opportunity to forgive somebody. Lord, if He lives in us, may we have the same desire that He had. And thank you that He never failed. And so, as Earl sang, we're not going to fall either. Your average holds us up for all eternity. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. God bless you. Have a good day.